Welcome back to Yesterday Today. I am your host, McLean Westbrook, along with Jake Westbrook here, my co-host.
Okay, I firmly thought I was the host and you were the co-host here, first of all. Okay.
Maybe you might have a chance at being the host if you actually showed up. You were gone last week. I apologize to my listeners on behalf of Jake. Jake, what is your alibi? Why weren't you here?
So, McLean, maybe I forgot to tell you, this is really my fault. Okay, alright, I'll accept responsibility. It was my fault, but
we've established that.
I was on an important quest. As you know, our state has the world's most draconian fireworks laws. So, I had to go out of state, drive a bit. New Mexico, by the way. Great fireworks there, top notch.
New Mexico. You drove back to New Mexico, huh?
Yes, I did. It is a bit of a drive, but I had to use a U-Haul truck because I was taking back a lot of fireworks, McLean. I have the largest arsenal of illegal fireworks you have ever seen.
Well, color me concerned.
Well, you can go ahead and be colored concerned, because I'm gonna... Look, it's a bit of a surprise. Look, let's just get the show going. I gotta work on this while we air these old radio shows. By the way, this is Yesterday Today, bringing you the best of yesterday's radio today. If McLean didn't mention that, but okay. Anyway, I'm gonna go set this up. You're gonna love it. The whole town's gonna love it. But before I get too ahead of myself, the theme of today's show is Independence Day, the 4th of July, that all-American holiday. The first show we have is an episode of You Are There, a program that dramatized moments in history. And this one is about the signing of the Declaration of Independence. This originally aired in March of 1948, but it's about July 4th, 1776, and here it is.
This is John Daly at the State House in Philadelphia. A powerful opponent of the Declaration of Independence has emerged here on this fourth evening of July 1776. An opponent strong enough to rally the latent opposition to separation from the mother country. Mr. John Dickinson, Pennsylvania's leading delegate to the Continental Congress, has just told reporters that he intends to speak on the floor before the final vote is taken. This in a supreme effort to block this declaration, which would commit our 13 colonies to revolutionary war with England. Mr. Dickinson agreed that he is staking his political future on the outcome of the vote. He anticipates that if he fails to block passage of the Declaration of Independence, he will be ejected from the Congress and be...
July 4th, 1776, the State House in Philadelphia. You are there.
John Dickinson, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson. CBS takes you back to the evening when the colonial leaders fought their showdown battle on the issue of independence from England, with the fate of a continent hanging in the balance. All things are as they were then, except for one thing. When CBS is there,
you are there.
You Are There is based on authentic historical fact and quotation. And now,
July 4th, 1776, the Philadelphia State House and John Daly.
Dining during the recess, which is now officially over. We hurried from the inn to this microphone here on the floor of the Congress to bring you this news. Mr. Dickinson has not arrived yet. He should be along at any minute, but meanwhile, the news has preceded him, and it's having an explosive effect on the delegates who are present. As a matter of fact, the weather isn't helping things either. It's very hot here in Philadelphia tonight, and in their heavy waistcoats, ruffles, and wigs, the delegates in the hall are perspiring profusely. Even more irritating are the horse flies from a nearby stable which come in through the open windows. These flies are nasty, so much so that Mr. Thomas Jefferson of Virginia, the author of the Declaration, has said that it is not at all unlikely that this debate will be ended not by sharp logic of the delegates, but by the even sharper bite of the horseflies. Major George Fielding Eliot has been talking to the delegates and is now ready with his analysis of the possibilities inherent in Mr. Dickinson's announcement. So I switch you now to our CBS headquarters booth here in the Congress. Come in, Major Eliot.
Mr. Dickinson's views carry great weight here. His announcement therefore comes as a shock to those delegates who want the Declaration of Independence passed. Mr. John Adams from the Massachusetts Bay Colony, leader of the Independence Party, had hoped the Declaration would go through unanimously, but that's no longer possible. Indeed, the Declaration may not even pass. Mr. Adams and Mr. Dickinson personify the present political conflict. Mr. Adams is the son of a Massachusetts lawyer. He was educated for the law in New England. He agrees with the men who dumped the East India Company's tea into Boston Harbor. Although Mr. Adams prides himself on being a plain man, the delegates regard him as arrogant and intolerant of all who differ with his views. Mr. Dickinson, on the other hand, was born to wealth. He received his education at London's Middle Temple. He has a mild, amiable, sincere manner. He opposes independence because of his conviction that all political injustices can be righted by legal methods without recourse to violence or revolution. Just a moment. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson have entered the hall. So, back to John Daly.
Mr. Jefferson! Mr. Jefferson!
Yes?
Mr. Jefferson, you've heard the news that Mr. Dickinson will speak against independence. May we have your comment?
I have the greatest respect for Mr. Dickinson's courage and integrity. Mr. Adams and I wish we could say as much for his political judgment.
This Congress, sir, is in no mood for any more of Mr. Dickinson's temporizing. In the course of this debate, the delegates have learned to know Mr. Dickinson for what he is. A spineless aristocrat at best, at worst an agent of the enemy.
Well, Mr. Adams, we're very glad to have your comment also. Are you accusing Mr. Dickinson of being in the pay of the British?
I hardly think Mr. Adams
If you
intended
please, Mr.
any...
Jefferson. Sir, Mr. Dickinson has consistently sabotaged the work of this body by fallacious appeals to reason and by parliamentary devices, but no more of that. The Declaration of Independence will be put to a vote as soon as President Hancock arrives and calls this meeting to order. And I am confident that the gentleman will be unable to sway the Congress from the course on which it is now well launched.
Thank you, Mr. Adams and Mr. Jefferson. The delegates are taking their seats. And as you must have gathered from Mr. Adams' remarks, the long smoldering enmity between him and Mr. Dickinson has finally flared out into the open. The debate, when he and Dickinson clash on the floor, promises to be more violent than any this Congress has heard in the 2 years since it's been in existence. Mr. Dickinson has just entered the hall, and he has to pass our microphone. He's coming this way now. Mr. Dickinson, sir.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Dickinson. Mr. John Adams has just called you an agent of the enemy, Mr. Dickinson. Would you care to
Mr.
make...
Adams considers anyone who differs with him to be an agent of the enemy. But I cannot allow myself to be silenced by insults. The question is, shall our colonies declare themselves independent of the mother country? And on this question, my opponents have been utterly dishonest.
Will you explain that, Mr. Dickinson?
Certainly will. 11 times in the past 2 years, Congress pledged itself not to seek independence. In January of this year, only 6 months ago, the Congress passed a most solemn declaration to the effect that we Americans have no thought of setting up an independent nation. And now, tonight, Mr. Adams asks us to break our pledged word. Nay, he demands it.
But if the people favor independence, Mr. Dickinson,
Mr. Adams has confused the people. He has engineered coup d'etats in the provincial legislatures in order to pack this Congress with delegates favoring independence. He has organized gangs of hoodlums to roam the streets of the cities and towns, attacking those who oppose revolution.
But isn't it true, Mr. Dickinson, that at least 50% of the population favors independence?
Is it right for one half of the population to impose its views on the other half by terror? Can these colonies hope to achieve victory in a revolutionary war when half of the people oppose it? I predict that if the Congress passes the Declaration of Independence, the result will be civil war, useless bloodshed, and ruinous defeat. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Dickinson. The delegate from Pennsylvania is walking to his seat now. Mr. John Hancock, the president of the Congress, has entered the chamber, but it will very probably be a few moments yet before he calls the Congress to order. Mr. Dickinson said that a considerable portion of the people are opposed to independence. Well, Ken Roberts is outside the State House, where a representative crowd of Philadelphians are awaiting the result of the vote. So let's find out what they think about independence. Go ahead, Ken Roberts.
With me at our CBS microphone is Mrs. Agnes Hatcher, who lives on Water Street. Mrs. Hatcher, do you favor separation from England?
I hate separation. My husband was killed fighting for separation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's John Adams that should be sorry, and Mr. Jefferson. Why don't they make peace and end this killing?
But, Mrs. Hatcher, would you want peace at any price?
Will you tell me why my husband should die at Boston fighting the Bay Colonies battles? If the men of New England have a quarrel with the British, let them do the fighting and dying themselves.
But Mr. Adams and Mr. Jefferson say they want freedom for all the colonies.
I don't care about freedom. My husband is dead.
Thank you, Mrs. Hatcher. Now, here beside me is Mr. Richard Caswell, an importer in Philadelphia. I forgot to ask you, Mr. Caswell, what do you import?
The finest of English woolens, sir. The very finest.
I see. And do you favor independence? Excuse me, Mr. Caswell. A dispatch rider has just ridden up to the State House. His horse is lathered and covered with dust and sweat. It looks as if he's been ridden long and hard. Where are you from, soldier?
New York. General Washington's headquarters.
What's the news there? What's happening?
Plenty of excitement.
Wait a minute. What's going on? The rider has gone into the State House. Whatever the news is, our reporters inside will bring it to you as soon as it's released. I'm sorry about that interruption, Mr. Caswell.
Quite all right. Quite all right.
You were about to tell me whether you favored independence.
It's an illusion, sir. Independent from what? How can we be independent? We're Englishmen, my family's English, they're all in England. Or my trade, my business is with England. Look at my books, you see. This talk about separation is ridiculous. Worse than ridiculous. It's vicious. It's ruining me. Ever since this war started, no shipments. Percentages, 76% less business than my firm did in 75.
But, Mr. Caswell, isn't it argued that if the colonies were independent, American businessmen could then trade with the entire world?
Who wants to trade with the entire world? What do we need the world for? Everything we can produce, we can sell in England. And everything that we need, we can buy from England. It's just common sense, that's all. How do you suppose the colonies have grown prosperous and strong and important? Protected trade with England. Protected trade.
Yes, but what about the heavy taxes that the mother country has imposed? What about taxation without representation?
Bad, very bad. But independence? Worse, much worse. Terrible. What about Pitt and Burke in Parliament? We have friends in England. They're trying to settle this thing intelligently, without violence, without bloodshed. But Mr. Adams and Jefferson, those wild men in there, hotheads, radicals, that's what they are. They want to get power, that's all, power. That's all they're interested in, power.
Well, Mr. Caswell, independence is
Independence, the word second. Listen to him. We've already become independent of principle and gratitude to the mother country.
What is he saying?
And if this war is permitted to continue, we shall become independent of cash, clothing, laws, liberty, and... Yes, life itself. What are you talking about? You're a liar, that's what you are, mister. You're a Tory. A Tory. It's the truth. It may not be popular, but it's the truth.
Shut up, you Tory, or we'll kick your London.
I'm not afraid of you. Listen, close your mouth.
Mr. Caswell has been struck by the man who's been heckling him. The crowd here is manhandling Mr. Caswell. The men are flailing at him with their fists. They must be members of the Sons of Liberty. The women are tearing at Mr. Caswell's clothes, spitting at him. This crowd has gone wild, and it's frightening. Mr. Caswell has been knocked to the ground. I can't see him, but I can hear his cries. The men are bending over him, swinging their fists, pounding.
This is John Daly inside the Continental Congress. We have interrupted Ken Roberts because President Hancock has just called the Congress to order. He's about to read the dispatch which has just arrived from General Washington's headquarters in New York. President Hancock.
This is the information contained in General Washington's dispatch. The news is grim indeed. A great British fleet is at this moment in New York Harbor. British Marines have seized Staten Island in the harbor, and redcoats are landing there by the thousands. General Washington advises that a British attack on New York City must be expected momentarily. The enemy appears to have overwhelming superiority in numbers and equipment. General Washington concludes with a statement that it may be impossible to defend New York City with the slender forces at his command. Gentlemen, the Congress will recess for 5 minutes.
Congress has again recessed. The sound of President Hancock's gavel has released a torrent of excitement and confusion bordering virtually on panic. The delegates have risen from their seats. They are moving about the floor, talking to each other in loud voices, often shouting in their arguments. Mr. John Adams and Mr. Thomas Jefferson have rushed up to the chair. Mr. Adams is pale, agitated. Only Mr. Dickinson, of all the delegates here in the chamber, has remained seated. Mr. Rutledge. Just a moment, sir. Here's Mr. Edward Rutledge, a delegate from South Carolina. Sir, what effect do you think the news of the British arrival will have on the independence vote?
It cannot fail to have a profound effect. It will add force and logic to Mr. Dickinson's position.
Thank you, Mr. Rutledge. Mr. Rutledge is one of Mr. Dickinson's supporters. Here is Mr. Elbridge Gerry, a delegate from the Massachusetts Bay Colony and an independence man. Mr. Gerry, what do you think of the announcement, sir?
Frankly, I don't know what to think. Mr. Dickinson may well argue now that the Declaration of Independence may not be worth the paper it's written on. But we must keep our head. We must...
Thank you, Mr. Gerry. Major Elliott has more news from New York, so let's switch to him in our CBS headquarters booth. Come in, Major Elliott.
We now know that the British fleet numbers 130 vessels. The troops on board are commanded by General Sir William Howe, one of England's ablest generals. The appearance of the fleet has thrown New York into disorderly confusion, and the legislature has withdrawn for safety to White Plains, 35 miles away. Our New York newsroom informs us that a short while ago, CBS correspondent Ned Kelmer passed through the British lines on Staten Island under safe conduct to interview the British commander-in-chief. He made a tape recording of this interview that our New York newsroom will play for you now.
This is the kitchen of a Staten Island farmhouse which now serves as General Howe's headquarters. A regiment of redcoats is on parade outside, marching to the music of a British military band. I can see them through an open window from where I'm standing. In their tight-fitting scarlet coats and long gaiters, these trim soldiers in perfect step to the music look like the veteran fighting men that they are. General Howe, sir, will you tell us how many such troops you have at your disposal?
14,000 on this island, and an additional 13,000 under General Carleton on their way across Lake Champlain in upper New York.
You don't mind giving General Washington this information?
Not at all, not at all. Frankly, I doubt very much that it will make any difference if Washington knows it.
I take it then, General Howe, that you're completely confident of victory.
Naturally. Those men you see out there, they are the conquerors of France and Spain. They're the finest troops in the world. They'll crush Washington's colonial militiamen at the very first encounter, utterly. But Washington, poor fellow, he's leading nothing but a rabble. They lack powder, guns. His officers are without experience. Washington himself is hardly what you might call, shall we say, a professional military man.
General Washington, sir, made quite a good showing in the war against the French.
Under English commanders, Mr. Calmer. Under English commanders. Mr. Calmer?
Calmer. General Howe, you know, of course, that the Continental Congress is about to vote on independence from England. Would you care to comment on that, sir?
Yes, I would like to say something to that. I would like to say it as a friend and not as a soldier. I repeat, as a friend, because I think I have amply demonstrated my friendship for British America in the past, by word and deed.
Yes, if I recall correctly, General Howe, you once stated publicly that you would never lead British troops against British America.
Of course, but the situation has changed. The colonies are now being led by a pack of extremists. This rebellion by the mob must be crushed, and I have the forces with which to crush it. The greatest fleet and the most powerful force of soldiers ever assembled on American soil. I hope with all my heart that it will not be necessary to throw this array of military power into action. I pray that the counsel of the extremists will be rejected by the Continental Congress and that the advice of saner, more moderate men will prevail.
Thank you, General Howe.
This is George Fielding Elliott in Philadelphia. The interview you have just heard was a tape recording made by Ned Kelmer at British headquarters on Staten Island. The recess here in the Continental Congress continues. The delegates are confused, shaken. Mr. Adams, Mr. Jefferson, and Mr. Benjamin Franklin, the leaders of the Independence Party, are doing all they can to counteract the doubt and hesitation inspired by the news from New York. They're trying desperately to maintain their strength, to keep their pledged votes in line, and they are insisting that the final vote be taken tonight without regard for the situation in New York. On the other hand, a group of less militant delegates is urging postponement until we have more definite information from General Washington's headquarters. The commander-in-chief said in his dispatch that he fears that he may not be able to hold New York. The cautious delegates want to know for sure whether he will fight or surrender the city without a struggle. Our CBS correspondent, Bud Collier, is now at General Washington's headquarters. He may have some last-minute information. Therefore, we take you now to General Washington's headquarters in New York. Bud Collyer reporting.
I'm waiting here on the parade ground before General Washington's headquarters. The Commander-in-Chief has promised to answer my question as soon as he comes out to address his troops, presumably to make some formal statement about the news of the British arrival. The bugles are blowing assembly. The men of the regiments are running to join their formations. I can see the flag of the 1st Massachusetts, I believe it is, the Virginia Rifles, the 5th Connecticut, and many others. But in all this mass of thousands of men, I see very few men in uniform. Most of the troops are dressed in civilian homespun, and quite a few of them wear the fringed leather shirts which mark them as frontiersmen. General Washington has still not come out on the parade ground. Oh, here's a militiaman coming by. Soldier! Soldier!
Let me go. I got called.
Oh, just a few questions. You've got plenty of time. What's your name, son?
Tom Thomas. Look, let me go, will you, mister? The sergeant will give me
That's all right. I'll fix it with General Washington for you. How old are you, Tom?
17.
Uh-huh. Ever seen any action against the British?
No, not yet.
Well, you'll probably see action soon right here in New York.
Well, I ain't afraid, if that's what you mean.
How long have you been in the Army, Tom?
2 months. Look, please, mister, ask me all your questions at once.
All right, Tom, sure. How long are you in for?
Well, I'm going back home next month. That's when my 3 months are up.
Oh?
My pa enlisted me. He wanted to make himself $10.
I see.
Well, he got his $10, and I'm going home next month.
Uh-huh.
Oh, there ain't nothing wrong with that, you know.
No.
Some fellas enlisted for the money and then deserted without even serving their 3 months.
Well, yes, but what about independence, Tom? How do you feel about independence?
Well, I don't know nothing about that, honest, mister. Oh, there's the general. I gotta go.
General Washington is approaching the microphone. He wears his full-dress uniform. His sword flaps against the side of his leg as he walks. General Washington, are you going to fight for New York?
It is a difficult question. Frankly, I haven't made up my mind.
If you elect to fight, General Washington, do you think you will be able to defend New York successfully?
I will do my best, and God willing, we shall be successful. In any event, I would like to say to all the people, do not yield to panic.
But General, in view of the current situation, do you think the Declaration of Independence should be passed at this time?
That must be decided by the Congress in Philadelphia.
Thank you, General Washington. Commander-in-Chief is walking away across the field now, his shoulders slightly bent, his jaw thrust forward in the manner of a man who bears an enormous responsibility for which he is ill prepared. This is Bud Collyer in New York. I return you now to the Continental Congress in Philadelphia.
This is John Daly at the Continental Congress in Philadelphia. This is the long-awaited climax of the debate on the Declaration of Independence. The Congress has reconvened, and because Mr. Dickinson asked to speak against the Declaration, Mr. Adams has also requested the floor. By agreement, the vote will take place when the two speakers have finished. Also, by agreement, before the session began, Mr. Adams is speaking first. He's exerting his utmost efforts to keep the votes pledged to independence from voting to Mr. Dickinson. Will he succeed? Well, we'll only know when the vote is taken. And now let's listen to Mr. Adams.
By proclaiming a Declaration of Independence, gentlemen, this Congress will be giving official recognition to a fact which already exists, namely, that these colonies are actually, in fact, independent of England. Yet, some great brains counsel us to wait, to exercise caution. Do these cautious gentlemen plead for a postponement of a Declaration of Independence so that their Tory friends may have time to hatch plots and conspiracies against us? Gentlemen, to delay is to play into the hands of the enemy, defeating the cause for which so much blood has already been shed. There must be no further delay. The people are ready. The people wait for the Congress to lead them. The hour has struck. The Congress must proceed now to a vote, an affirmative vote, on the Declaration of Independence.
Mr. Adams has left the rostrum. Mr. Dickinson is coming up to speak. Dickinson's face is pale. His fists are clenched. He's clearly marshaling all of his strength for a supreme effort of oratory. He's waiting now for the Congress to come to order. Mr. Dickinson.
Mr. President, I accuse my opponents of cynicism. They cannot believe that these colonies will be able to endure as independent states. Their true goal is not independence. They exploit indignation against the mother country to further their own personal fortunes. Mr. President, my opponents make their appeal to the emotions. I make my appeal to intelligence and logic. Mr. President, British troops are on Staten Island in overwhelming force. They are about to attack New York. General Washington's task will be difficult at best, but a declaration of independence now will serve only to divide the people of New York and make the defense of that city hopeless. Pass the declaration and you will set brother against brother, father against son. The colonies will become not only the scene of warfare with a mother country, but civil war as well. And in the bloody, senseless, fratricidal struggle, there is no possibility of success. Proclaim independence this evening, gentlemen, and you gain nothing. You merely invite the whirlwind of destruction. I urge you to vote against it. I beg, I plead, I beseech you, vote against independence.
Mr. Dickinson's plea has been received without applause. The delegates are calling the question, and there seems to be no objection. Oh, but wait a minute. Several of the delegates have risen. However, they're not going to ask for the floor. These delegates are leaving the hall. 4, 5, there go 3 more. Others are leaving also, and I can recognize some of them as men who have been openly undecided. Apparently, they're unwilling to vote, caught on the horns of a dilemma, swayed, no doubt, both by Mr. Adams and Mr. Dickinson. This is a fearful moment of decision. Some of these men are apparently not capable of facing up to it. President Hancock.
Embodying the Declaration of Independence. The vote will be by colonies, each colony voting as a unit. A majority will decide. The clerk will call the roll.
12 votes will be cast. New York has decided to abstain, thus 7 votes will carry the issue.
New Hampshire, Mr. Josiah Bartlett.
New Hampshire votes unanimously for independence.
Massachusetts, Mr. John Adams.
The patriots of Massachusetts vote unanimously for independence.
Rhode Island, Mr. William Ellery.
Independence.
Connecticut, Mr. Roger Sherman.
Independence, unanimous.
New Jersey, the Reverend Dr. Witherspoon.
Mr. President, in my judgment, the country is not only ripe for independence, but is in danger of becoming rotten for want of it. New Jersey votes unanimously for independence.
Pennsylvania, Mr. Benjamin Franklin.
The majority of the delegation from Pennsylvania votes for separation from England, so help us God.
Delaware, Mr. Caesar Rodney.
Delaware votes unanimously for independence.
The Declaration of Independence is passed. Delaware has cast the deciding vote. There is no reaction from the delegates, and the voting continues. It will very probably be unanimous by colonies. Many of the individual delegates are shaking their heads. However, no matter what may be said against the Declaration, this document is impressive. It reads well. It begins, when in the course of human events change is necessary, and then continues, and I quote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
July 4th,
Two of these rights,
1776.
deriving their
John Dickinson loses his fight to block the Declaration of Independence, and the 13 colonies go forward to establish the United States of America.
All right, that was You Are There from 1948, all about the signing of the Declaration of Independence. McLean, things are going rather well up there on the roof as I'm setting up my little presentation. Oh, it's going to be grand. It's going to be glorious.
I noticed when I tried to go up there, you barred the door and would not let anyone come up there. So I'm a little curious as to what you're planning.
That's just a safety precaution, as there's a lot of, gasoline and gunpowder involved in this, so...
You're saying a lot of words right now, and frankly, I'm not liking any of them.
Well, you go ahead and introduce the next show. We'll be fine. Chill.
Okay, I am trepidatiously introducing our next show here, and what we have is a double feature of the Great Gildersleeve, two July 4th episodes, featuring the Great One himself. These episodes are around July 4th from 1946 and 1952.
The Kraft Foods Company presents The Great Gildersleeve. It's The Great Gildersleeve, starring Harold Perry, brought to you by the Kraft Foods Company, makers of a complete line of famous quality food products. For the past couple of weeks, we have been recalling to you some of the Great Gildersleeve's early experiences. Tonight, the great man wants to talk about one of the biggest days in his whole life. We give you now Throckmorton P. Gildersleeve.
Well, sir, as long as I live, I'll never forget last 4th of July. What a day. That was the day of the first annual outing of the Jolly Boys Social Club. Come one, come all, and bring your friends. I'd been up late the night before with the committee on arrangements, and I was planning to celebrate the anniversary of the independence of our country by sleeping a little late that morning. About 7 o'clock, outside my window... Leroy...
Happy 4th of July, Unc!
Yes. There was a war on then. That was only a year ago. Can you believe it? You couldn't buy fireworks anywhere in those days. But breathes there a boy with soul so dead he can't find some way to blow himself up on the 4th? I figured I'd better get down there and see what... Leroy, whatever you're doing, stop it.
I'm not doing anything, Unc.
Don't tell me that. I've got ears. Or I did have. Well, hold your fire till I can get down there. You can't deny a small boy the 4th of July. That's his day. But I still remember the time I made the mistake of carrying a 3-inch salute in my hip pocket. And my best friend sneaked up on me with a piece of punk. It was burned in my memory. I didn't want anything like that to happen to Leroy, so I got up and shaved and got dressed, put on my white Palm Beach suit and my white canvas shoes that I hadn't worn in years, and hurried downstairs. Breakfast was a rather disordered meal that day. I guess we were all a little excited. Marjorie kept jumping up and down and rushing off places. I finally told her to sit down. Marjorie, I said, for heaven's sake, light somewhere.
But I'm all through, Uncle Mort.
I don't care. Sit down. You make me nervous.
But I'm supposed to be helping Bertie make the lunch.
That can wait till after breakfast. One thing at a time here. Where's my cereal? Leroy, wipe your chin. Bertie, I'm ready for my cereal.
I'm coming.
We ought to get a bell.
Here you are, Mr. Gildersleeve. Leroy, how about you?
Well, I don't want Uncle.
What's this you've given me, Bertie?
That's your... Oh, my goodness. That's the chopped olives for the sandwiches.
Olives are my favorite fruit, Bertie, but not for breakfast.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Gildersleeve. That's what comes from making lunch and breakfast at the same time. I only hope I didn't go and spread the oatmeal on the sandwiches.
Birdie's a scream this morning. How do you like her with that cap over her eye?
I really ought to go out there and help her.
Sit still, my dear. You'll only add to the confusion. She'll fight her way out of this.
What time are we leaving for the picnic grounds, Unky?
Well, Floyd should be coming by here for us about 11.
Floyd Munson? Are we going with him?
Yeah, he's going to get his cousin's hay wagon. We'll all ride out together. Everybody. Big excursion.
Oh, how wonderful. A hayride. I've got to run right over and tell Marshall.
Yeah, Marshall will find out. You stay right where you are.
A hayride? Oh, this is going to be more fun. Unky, I think you were a darling to arrange it.
Yeah.
And don't you look pretty in your nice white suit? Doesn't he look pretty, Leroy?
He looks like the good humor man.
I feel like the good humor man, Leroy. Yes, sir, nobody's going to make me mad today. But don't keep trying, Leroy. Well, we had work to do that morning, but all of a sudden nothing would do. We should drop everything and hang out the flag.
Well, what's the use of having a flag if you don't hang it out on the 4th of July?
All right. So you tramp upstairs to the attic. 2 flights. Extra step. Well, you rummage around and you find the flag. Then you open the front attic window. It hasn't any sash cord, so you have to prop it up with a stick. Only you can't find a stick, so you use a coat hanger.
I'll go out in the yard, Uncle Mort, and see how it looks.
Now, Leroy, when I get out the window, you hold on to my legs.
What for?
What for? What do you think? Just hold on to them, that's all. Now, don't let go.
Okay.
No, not yet, Leroy. Wait till I get out there.
I thought you said to hold on to them.
Well, use your head, my boy. Now, you lower the flag out the window, and you square 'em part way out yourself. And then you look down. Hold on, Leroy. Oh, sure. That's the time the telephone always rings.
Leroy, telephone. For me. Yes, for you. I'll be back, Unc.
Okay. Oh, Leroy! You come back here. The little devil. There you are. Half in and half out. Straddling the windowsill on your stomach in a Palm Beach suit that's just been cleaned and too tight. There's only one thing to do. You try to inch your way back in. There you are, teetering in space while your life hangs in the balance. And then it happens. Your elbow hits the hanger, the window drops like a guillotine. Oh, right in the back. You're pinned there like a rat in a trap, clutching at Old Glory. 4 or 5 hours pass. Maybe it's 4 or 5 minutes. You've been hollering as loud as you can, with the wind knocked out of you in your heart and your throat. And then some fool happens along and calls to you.
What you doing, Throckmorton?
Leela!
Shoot if you must this old gray head, but spare your country's flag, he said.
Leela, help! This is no joke, Leela. I'm stuck.
Oh, gracious.
Get help!
You stay right there, Throckmorton, you hear? I'll be up. Marjorie, Leroy, Bertie, everybody
Safe at last. Safe again in the bosom of my little family. What might have been an ugly incident was turned into a happy triumph. For Old Glory waved proudly from our attic window. We all went out front to look at it. And we all agreed that it looked just fine there.
It looks just fine there, Throckmorton. Just fine.
It looks beautiful.
Yeah.
How do you like it, Bertie?
Mr. Gildersleeve, if I had my way, I'd leave it there all the time.
Yes, sir, it looked fine. But there were other things to do, and time was wasting, so I gave a few orders. Let's get going here, Bertie. No time to lose.
Yes, sir.
Now, Marjorie, you help Bertie with the lunch.
Okay.
Leela, I wonder if you could give him a hand.
Well, I have to dress yet, Throckmorton, but I'd be glad to do what I can.
Good. Leroy, you carry out the basket and things as they get them packed.
Me?
Yes, you.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to sit down on the porch here for a while. and think about the Declaration of Independence. Well, I sat down on the swing there and lit a cigar. And I thought how different this was from other 4th of Julys I'd known. How quiet and how nice. And I thought how a man's tastes change as he grows older. Why, when I was a youngster, I lived in a world of high explosives. Dynamite caps, 5-inch salutes, red devils, Roman candles, erupting strombolis, 50-cent skyrockets. I loved them. Not anymore. Suddenly I looked down the walk, and here came a little boy that might have been me at the age of 6. Only it wasn't. It was little Craig Bullard from across the street, and he was pulling a toy cannon. I knew what he was going to say before he said it.
Can Leroy play?
Well, hello, Craig. What's that you got there?
I want Leroy to play with me.
Well, Leroy's inside right now.
Tell him to come out.
Well, he has some work to do, Craig.
I want him to come out.
Later, perhaps later. Who gave you the cannon?
My father.
Oh, that's fine. Doesn't go off, does it? Now, Craig, surely your father's told you not to aim that thing at people. Craig, what are you going to do?
I'm going to shoot you.
Now, Craig, what's that string for?
I'm going to pull it.
Don't you shoot that thing.
I'm going to pull it. 1.
Craig, you hear me? Don't you shoot that.
2.
Look, Craig, I thought of a game.
3.
I knew it wouldn't shoot.
Hi, Leroy.
A little guest to see you, Leroy.
Oh, for corn's sake. I'll see you later, Craig. I'm busy. I have a cannon. What's that? I have a cannon. Hey, pretty neat. Let's have a look at it, Craigie, old boy. Maybe I can show you how to shoot it.
You do, and I'll shine.
Why, this is one of those carbide cannons. I pull the string and nothing happens. Well, no wonder. What you need is carbide. I've got some around in the garage. Come on. Hey, did you ever think of loading it with gravel?
Leroy?
Yeah?
No carbide, Leroy.
But it's meant for carbide.
And no gravel.
Okay, no gravel, just carbide.
And no carbide.
Okay. Come on, Craig. I know what we'll do.
What were they going to do? I sat there uneasily, wondering how little boys ever lived to reach the age of 12. But pretty soon they were back again.
Leroy knocked over my cannon.
Wait a minute.
Leroy knocked over my cannon.
Stop it. Stop it, Craig.
Yeah, stop it, you little snitcher.
Leroy.
Well, he claims he's General Eisenhower.
Leroy, Craig's a little boy. That's no reason to get angry with him if he wants to imagine things.
I'm General Eisenhower. He's Rommel.
Yeah.
Now he wants to change sides, the dirty guy.
You must have discovered how the game comes out.
I'm going to take my cannon and go home.
Yeah, well, that's all right. I think that's a very wise decision, my boy. Very wise indeed. Rommel would have been smart if he'd done the same thing. Well, so it went. A few laughs, a few fights, a little excitement, and a lot of bustle and preparation. It was noon before we knew it, and the Jolly Boys were overdue. Leela had gone home to dress, and we were standing on the front porch waiting. Leroy and Marjorie and her boyfriend and I. And the wagon hove in sight.
Here it comes, Auntie.
Oh, boy, look at it.
Yes, sir, it was Floyd's cousin's hay wagon with a nice bed of fresh hay. And there were red, white, and blue bows on the tails of the horses. And somebody had twined red, white, and blue crepe paper through the spokes of the wheels. Floyd's cousin was handling the horses, and Floyd sat on the seat beside him. And believe it or not, he had an accordion.
Oh, brother, is that corny?
Oh, it's wonderful. Don't you love it, Marshall? Oh, Auntie, I'm so happy.
Yeah, don't jump up and down with the thermos bottles, my dear.
Oh, ahoy there, Commissioner.
Ahoy, Jolly Boys.
Climb aboard.
Oh, yes. Okay, let's get started, huh? Well, they all were. Good old Hooker, good old Peavy, good old Floyd, and good old Gates. I tell you to look at that good old wagon, all red, white, and blue, and all those fine fellows in it. Well, made you proud of your country, that's all. I'm glad there was a 4th of July.
Come on, what are we waiting for?
Yeah, come on, Commissioner.
Scramble up there, Leroy.
Okay.
Up you go, Marjorie.
You're next, Gildy. Give him a hand there, somebody.
Oh,
Don't strain yourself, Mr. Gildersleeve.
Hey!
Hold those horses there.
Whoa, now. All together, fellas.
Now, up to daisy.
Well, let's go. Giddy up there.
Yeah, hey, wait! Don't forget to stop for the girls.
Are you kidding?
Oh, take me out to the loading. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me something that's a Cracker Jack. I don't care if I never get back to the room.
Yes, sir, it looks like it's going to be a great picnic. You know, when a person's hungry, there's nothing quite so satisfying as a slice of bread with your favorite spread.
Well, parquet margarine's my favorite spread, Mr. Lang, but it's often so hard to get. And right now we're all being asked to go easy on bread, so there'll be more for hungry people who really need it. So surely you're not trying to sell me on the idea of using more.
That's right, I'm not. The point I'm trying to make is that bread and spreads are basic hunger-satisfying foods. Two of the foods most vitally needed in the world today. Here at home, we're fortunate that there's some of both for everyone. Not all we'd like, perhaps, but enough. And by conserving bread and spreads when they're in short supply, it helps everyone to get a fair share.
That, Mr. Lang, is going to make me use parquet sparingly and to appreciate its fine flavor and food value all the more.
And I'd like to just add that Kraft will continue to make all the parquet margarine possible under present conditions and distribute it as fairly as we can. Thanks again for being so patient when supplies of parquet are temporarily limited.
Yes, sir, quite a day, the 4th of July. Everybody had a good time riding out to the picnic grounds. Leroy was up front with the driver. Marjorie and Marshal Bullard sat together, talking very seriously. Floyd was playing his accordion. Mostly requests from Eve Goodwin and Leela Ransom. Sounded pretty good. Floyd was all dressed up for a day in the country with white sports shoes. Judge Hooker had on a pair of golf knickers he dug up someplace.
I never knew the judge was bow-legged before.
That'll do, Leroy. Eve Goodwin was looking very pretty with a big straw hat on. Leela was wearing something she called a play suit.
Didn't you ever have a play suit, Throckmorton?
No, but I like it. What'll we play?
Oh, you.
Well, we got out to the grounds in about an hour. Nice woodsy spot besides a little stream. Quite a good deep pool at one point. We unloaded the baskets with the food. Everything was so peaceful for a few minutes.
Just pile all that stuff over here, boys, under the tree.
What about putting it out here in the open?
I prefer to have it under the tree, Floyd, and since I'm to be the chef...
Who said you were going to be the chef, Judge?
Naturally, I assumed that...
Well, just turn off your assumer. You're assuming too fast.
Yeah, I'm pretty fair-handed at barbecue myself.
I will attend to the barbecuing, Floyd.
Who said so? It just so happens, Gildy, that my recipe for barbecued frankfurters is acknowledged the best in town.
Not by me, it ain't. I got a sauce makes a hot dog taste like filet mignon.
Well, my sauce makes it taste like a hot dog.
I still say if you have any regard for our guests, you let me be the chef.
Oh, is that so?
Yes,
Now, wait a minute.
Fellas, is this any way to behave? Why, what'll our guests think of the Jolly Boys?
Gee, I never thought of that.
We've got an organization with a reputation to maintain. Summerfield has its eye on the Jolly Boys Club.
Chief Gates is right, fellas. I'll withdraw my claim to the chef's job.
So will I. You take it, Floyd.
No, Judge, you take it.
Oh, no.
Well, then let Gildersleeve have it.
Oh, no, not me.
Well, for heaven's sake...
You asked for it in the first place, Judge.
That has nothing to do with it.
The idea. I've never seen something.
Well, let's be jolly boys, shall we?
So harmony finally prevailed. We made Hooker chef, and then somehow I got stuck with the job of collecting wood for a fire. So naturally, I went looking for Leroy. I finally found him down by the creek. Leroy, put your shoes on. I want you to gather some wood for a fire.
Oh, no.
Now, Leroy.
I'm working on an important project. I can't stop in the middle of it.
What is the project?
I'm improving the swimming hole. Everybody will be grateful when it's done.
There's nothing the matter with the swimming hole, my boy. It doesn't need any projects.
Are you kidding? It isn't deep enough. I can't even get over my head.
It isn't necessary to drown to have a good time, my boy. Now put on your shoes.
Oh, please, Unc, I'll get the firewood later. Can't I just build a small dam?
Well, all right. But building a dam is harder than you think.
Well, if a dumb animal can do it, I can do it. Gosh, a beaver. They chew down trees with their teeth and then slap the mud on with their tails.
How are you going to manage that?
Sit on it. Or maybe you could sit on it. That'd be better.
Leroy! If you're going to play in the water, put on your bathing suit. Well, I finally got Marjorie and Marshal Bullard to go out and collect firewood. They'd been mooning around with nothing to do, and they seemed glad of an excuse to go off for a walk by themselves. Of course, when they came back an hour later, they'd forgotten to bring any firewood. But they didn't seem to mind going back for some more. Although by that time, the rest of us were getting ready to go swimming.
Say, Commish, that school teacher don't look bad in a bathing suit, does she?
Miss Goodwin is a lady, Floyd.
Did I say she wasn't? Ransom ain't bad either.
Are you referring to Mrs. Ransom?
Well, sure. What's the matter?
You better watch your step there, Floyd. Remember, Mr. Gildersleeve's been engaged to practically every woman on this picnic.
Now, see here, you fellas.
Only kidding, Commissioner, weren't we, Floyd?
Well, I thought so. Come on, let's go swimming.
Well, gentlemen, off for a plunge in the brook?
Peavy. Come on, get into your bathing suit.
No, thanks, Mr. Gildersleeve. Not today.
Oh, come on, Peave. It'll cool you off.
No, really. The fact is, I'm not much of a swimmer.
Well, just float then. Anybody can float.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I've always had trouble floating.
Oh, there's nothing to it, Peave. Just lie on your back and don't move.
And that's what they always told me.
Well?
Every time I try it, water goes up my nose.
Your head must be heavier than your feet.
That's what I say.
You two, aren't y'all going in the water?
We'll be right there, Leela. We're trying to get Peavy to come along.
What, Peavy? Not going swimming? No, Judge, not today. Well, good way to work up an appetite, Peavy. Well, I dare say, but the fact is, gentlemen, I promised Mrs. Peavy I wouldn't go. She has a theory it's bad to go in the water on a hot day.
That's a lot of baloney.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. Not to Mrs. Peavy, anyway. Of course, right now, she's out of town.
Yeah, that's right. Come on, Peavy. Come on, fellas. Last one into the water is a rotten egg.
Aren't you going to get your feet wet?
Well, that's no way. I want to dive in.
Well, I don't think the water's deep enough, Throckmorton.
Plenty deep enough for a good diver.
You could dive off that rock, Commissioner, if you're really good.
Let's see you dive off the rock, Unc.
Well, that's pretty high.
What's the matter? You afraid?
Well, no, I'm not afraid. I'll show you, by George.
You want to see me swim underwater, Mrs. Ransom?
Can you really?
Just watch.
Oh, my goodness, look at Mr. Munson, Eve. He's actually swimming underwater.
Hey, girls, aren't you going to watch me dive?
Oh, my ankle.
You think it was a lobster, Mrs. Ransom? It's only me.
This.
You cut that out, Floyd.
Hey, girls, you want to see me imitate a whale?
Oh, I'd love to see that.
Well, watch. First, I float on my back, then...
Oh, he's spouting. Oh, that's marvelous.
Hey, girls, watch me. I'm going to dive.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
You better get out of the way.
Stand back, ladies. Give the man room.
Come on, Unc. 1, 2.
Don't rush me, Leroy.
Hey, girls, you want to see me stand on my head in the water? Look.
Oh, that's marvelous. Look at him.
Oh, who can't do that?
Oh, both of them. Don't they look fantastic?
Hey, girls, watch me. I'm going to dive.
Well, for corn's sake, go ahead and dive. Oh, look, Eve. Here comes Mr. Peavy.
Oh, my goodness.
That long-sleeve bathing suit is hookers. Come on in, Peave. The water's fine.
I think I'll just sit on the bank here and dabble my toes.
Come on up here with me, Peavy, and dive in.
You'll get wet faster your way, Peavy.
What'd you say, Floyd?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, do come in, Mr. Peavy. The water's lovely.
Is it cold?
It's just right. Stick your toe in.
Well, seems nice and moderate. Guess I can risk it. I'll just rub a little water on my chest and on my forehead. in my stomach.
What's that for, Peeve?
That prevents a chill.
Look at me, darn it!
I wonder if I can remember how to do a duck dive. Would you ladies care to see me do my duck dive?
Oh, we certainly would, wouldn't we?
I can't think of anything more enjoyable.
Hey, here I come!
And now you watch. When I wiggle my feet just before they go under, that's the duck's tail feathers.
Goodness.
Oops, there go the tail feathers.
Look out, everybody! Here I come, and this time I mean it! Oh, 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 oh!
Holy cow, he knocks half the water out of the pool.
Well, we were all having a good time in the water, but the judge made us come and eat his barbecued frankfurters. His sauce wasn't so much. I only ate 6.
You ate 7.
But I will say everybody was nice and helped clean up afterward. Even Leroy did a little work.
A little?
Leroy didn't have time to do much work because Mr. Bullard drove out and took him and Marshall and Marjorie home in his car. That just left the grown-ups to ride back in the hay wagon, and perhaps it was just as well.
Moonlight's nice tonight, isn't it, Throckmorton?
You bet.
The moon's awfully pretty tonight, isn't it, Judge?
Yes, it is, Leela. It is indeed.
Moon's awful pretty tonight. Ain't it, Peavy?
Get away from me, Floyd.
Are you comfortable, Eve?
Mm-hmm, yes.
Comfortable, Leela?
Yes, thank you. Although the hay gets a little itchy after a while.
Are you cold, Eve?
Oh, mercy, no.
Well, couldn't you pretend you're a little chilly?
Now, Throckmorton.
I can hear every word you say, Commissioner.
Well, play your accordion, Floyd, and give us a chance.
Okay.
Floyd played some nice old songs, and Eve snuggled up to me a little. But I couldn't seem to get my mind on her. Maybe it was because I couldn't help noticing the judge kept trying to slide his arm around Leela. Leela's nothing to me, of course. But just the same, when she called over to me...
Why don't you sing, Throckmorton?
Sing? Why, George, that's a good idea, Leela. Why don't we all sing? Come on, Floyd, something we all know.
Well, let me see. How's that?
Oh, that's just the one, Floyd.
Okay.
All together now, folks.
In the good old summertime, in the good old summertime, strolling through the shady lanes with your baby mine, hold her hand and she holds yours, and that's a very good sign that she's your Tootsie Woosie.
Yes, sir. We hope that all of you can have at least a day this summer as fine as our last 4th of July. This is our last broadcast of the season, but we'll be back again for the Kraft Foods Company on September 11th. If you look at your calendar, you'll find out that September the 11th isn't Sunday at all. It's Wednesday. So you remember that and tell your friends. Next season, you'll hear the great Gildersleeve. That's me. On Wednesday instead of Sunday. It'll be the same network, and your local paper will give you the time and the station. I guess all the members of our cast are looking forward to their vacations. I'd like to thank every one of them for the nice times we've had together all this year. There's Louise Erickson, who plays Marjorie, Walter Tetley, our little Leroy, and Lillian Randolph, whom you know as Bertie. Getting outside the immediate family, there's Shirley Mitchell, who plays Leela Ransom, and Bea Benaderet, who's Eve Goodwin. Thanks, too, to the Jolly Boys, Arthur Q. Bryan, and Ken Christie, who are Floyd and Chief Gates. And to that not-so-jolly little boy, Tommy Bernard, who plays Little Craig. And to jolly Johnny Lang, our announcer. And, of course, with every season that goes by, we appreciate more and more our two fine old standbys, Earl Ross, who plays Judge Hooker, and Richard LeGrand, who is Mr. Peavy.
As we come to the close of another season of fun on the Great Gildersleeve, we'd like to leave with you this very serious thought.
How would your appetite hold up at dinner tonight if a starving child stood at your elbow? A child with hunger biting into his wide eyes and hollow cheeks. Please, just for a moment, pretend that you can see him beside you. This child who has known the worst of war and now faces famine. How when spring is back and our children frolic in the sun, these frail children of Europe and Asia long for bread. Help to feed them, and you can by buying and eating as little wheat and rice as possible, by turning in used fats and oils, eating more of the plentiful foods, as much as possible from your own garden, preserving all you do not eat, wasting not a scrap. A child in Europe, when he gets some strength back in his body, will thank you for it.
This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
Presents Willard Waterman as the Great Gildersleeve. The Great Gildersleeve is brought to you, partially transcribed, by the Kraft Foods Company. Kraft, makers of the one and only Miracle Whip salad dressing. We say one and only because there just isn't any other salad dressing like Miracle Whip. Miracle Whip is different, and it tastes different. Miracle Whip tastes so good it's become the most popular salad dressing ever created. More Miracle Whip is sold than the next 20 leading brands of salad dressing combined. Try it. Make your salads better tasting with the one and only Miracle Whip. The great Gildersleeve has never plunged into the sea of matrimony, but he does like to dangle his toes in the water once in a while. A few days ago, he met a Miss Gloria McKinley, manager of the complaint department at Hogan Brothers. He hasn't had a date with her yet, but this afternoon he has persuaded her to let him drive her home from work. Accordingly, we find him parked in front of the store with his motor running.
I better leave it running, too. That policeman in the corner has his eye on me, and I'm parked in a loading zone. Well, I'm waiting to pick up a pretty little package. Right, George, I want to make a good impression on her. Should have washed the car. I didn't notice Leroy written in the dust in the hood. Oh, well.
You, Gildy.
Uh-oh, Judge Hooker. He would have to show up.
Gildy, you're in a loading zone.
I know it, Judge.
And your motor's running.
I know that, too.
Why don't you turn it off before it boils over?
Well, it is beginning to steam.
You better start it up again, Gildy. You're too close to the fire plug.
Oh, my goodness. The only backseat driver I ever saw who stands on the curb.
Are you waiting for somebody?
Judge, I'm not just sitting here trying to run out of gas.
Oh, I know. It's closing time, and I'll bet you're waiting for Miss McKinley. Do you have a date?
You bet. She's letting me drive her home.
Well, I guess she figures that's better than taking the bus.
Yes.
She can save a dime and make fewer stops. Unless you plan to stop and watch the sun setting behind the reservoir.
Judge, will you please go away?
As it happens, Gildy, I must. I'm going home and read my 4th of July speech. I'm orating at Kraft Park.
Well, I thought Congressman Greenhall was going to speak.
Well, he's leaving for the convention, and I'm reading the speech that he prepared.
Oh?
I suppose you'll be there to hear me?
There must be a better way to spend the 4th than listening to an old goat.
Gildy, I don't exactly relish the assignment. Miss Matterhorn is vacationing at Virginia Lakes, and I'd planned to go up there for the 4th.
Judge, I don't envy you reading somebody else's speech.
Well, if I don't like what the congressman has written, I can always preface it by saying the views expressed in the speech do not necessarily represent the views of the speaker.
Step aside, Judge.
Huh?
Here comes Miss McKinley.
Oh, I'll open the door.
Judge, let me open it.
It's already open.
Busybody. Hello, Miss McKinley.
Sorry if I kept you waiting, Mr. Gildersleeve.
Not at all. I've kept him entertained.
Judge, Hop in, Miss McKinley.
Oh, thank you.
Judge, you may now close the door.
Well, aren't you going to introduce me?
Oh, all right. Miss McKinley, may I present Judge Hooker?
How do you do, Judge?
This is a rare pleasure, Miss McKinley.
Look at him bow. If he isn't careful, he'll bump his head on the running board. Goodbye, Judge.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Judge.
I told you goodbye, Gildy. Why don't you go?
Yes, yes. Come on, car.
Could your car be out of gas?
Oh, the water commissioner doesn't burn gas. He burns water.
Oh, Judge.
Darn car would have to embarrass me at a time like this.
My, what a noisy car.
Goodbye, Judge.
Why don't you bring it to the park on the 4th and we'll use it instead of firecrackers?
Courtroom comedian.
Is Judge Hooker a friend of yours?
He poses as one.
Well, all in one afternoon, I've met a distinguished judge, and I'm being driven home by the city water commissioner.
Well, Miss McKinley, you'd be riding in a new car if this wasn't election year. You've heard the cracks about freezers and fur coats and stuff like that, I guess.
Uh-huh. You men in the public eye have so many things to think about.
Well, scarcely a day goes by that I don't think about something.
I've always wondered what important men talk about.
So have I. Oh! You mean the judge and me?
Of course. Oh, you don't have to be so modest, Mr. Gildersleeve.
Well, thank you.
Well, now, what problems were you two men wrestling with?
Oh, nothing important, really. When you came up, we were just discussing the 4th of July speech.
Oh, are you going to deliver the speech at the 4th of July celebration?
Me?
How thrilling!
Well, anyway, that's what the judge and I were discussing.
And he was asking you to deliver the speech.
Well, no, not exactly, Miss McKinley. Originally, our congressman was supposed to make the speech. But he couldn't be here, so he had to ask somebody else.
So the congressman himself asked you. Are you a close friend of his, too?
Well, I voted for him. He helped put him in office, I mean.
How wonderful that he asked you to take his place. What are you going to say in front of all those people, Mr. Gildersleeve?
Well, frankly, I haven't given it much thought.
I don't suppose that's a problem to an experienced orator like you.
Well, you can be sure I'll come up with something. I wonder what I will come up with. So that's how it happened, Marjorie. Now I'm behind the 8 ball.
Unky, why did you lead her to believe you were going to make the speech?
I didn't. When a woman wants to believe something, she just believes it.
I got an idea, Unc.
What's that, Leroy?
Tell her you can't make the speech because you have laryngitis.
But I don't have laryngitis.
Go get your feet wet and catch it. Leroy, don't be ridiculous.
I'm not even supposed to give the speech. That's Judge Hooker's job.
Why didn't you just tell her Judge Hooker was supposed to do it?
Well, she made it sound like such a big thing, I couldn't say no. She'll probably be sitting in the front row, and if I don't appear, she'll think I'm a braggart.
Yeah.
She'll think I'm just trying to attract attention to myself.
Yeah.
She'll lose respect for me.
Yeah.
She'll think I'm just a big...
Windbag?
Yeah. Leroy.
Well, just helping you out.
Yeah, well, don't put words in my mouth.
Okay. What are you going to do, Unky?
Well, now that I'm in this deep, there's only one thing to do. Call her and tell her she made a mistake about the whole thing.
She made a mistake.
Well, she got the wrong impression. I'll tell her Judge Hooker is making the speech.
Oh, I think that's very wise, Unky.
You bet. She'll like me better if I tell her the truth. Yeah, I'll drive over and see her right now and clear up the situation.
I'll get it!
All right, Bertie. If it's for me, I'm just leaving.
Yes, sir. Excuse me, President. One moment, please. It's you, Miss Gildersleeve.
Bertie, I said I was leaving.
Yes, sir, but this is a lady. And when there's a lady on the phone, I know you ain't going nowhere.
Oh, well. Hello?
Hello, Mr. Gildersleeve. This is Gloria McKinley.
Miss McKinley? Oh, yes, Miss McKinley. Well, I was just thinking about you. There's something I want to talk to you about.
Oh, I hope you don't think it's terrible of me to phone you, but there's something I must talk to you about, too.
Good. Glad you called, but first let me clear up something about that 4th of July speech.
The speech of yours is what has me so excited. I've just had the most marvelous idea.
Oh?
Hogan Brothers is having a special 4th of July window display.
You're fine. Now, about the speech.
I'm coming to that. I'm so thrilled about your making the speech. I'm having our art department put a sign in the store window
The sign in the window?
telling people not to miss the important address to be delivered in Craft Park by Commissioner Throckmorton P. Gildersleeve.
Zeke.
What?
Miss McKinley, you shouldn't have done that.
Oh, it was nothing.
Yes, it was. You don't understand. Suppose I don't even make the speech.
But you said you were going to.
Now, wait a minute, Miss McKinley.
Mr. Gildersleeve, you weren't just leading me on, were you?
Miss McKinley, I'd never do that.
Oh, I'm sure you would. Now then, what did you want to talk to me about? You said there was something that needed clearing up.
Clearing up. Oh, yes. Well, it's a little cloudy. I hope the weather clears up so I can give that speech.
The sun is shining at my house.
It isn't shining over here.
You look a little better this morning, Unc. You don't look so worried and wrinkled.
Leroy, I'm not wrinkled. And I do feel better this morning.
I don't get it. You meet a new girl, and the first time you take her out, you get yourself in a big hassle.
Yeah, I'm not in a hassle. I figured the whole thing out.
Yeah?
Judge Hooker doesn't want to make the 4th of July speech anyway. All I have to do is offer to make it for him. He'll be delighted. Then he can go to Virginia Lakes and see Miss Matterhorn.
You'd rather look at Miss Matterhorn than make a speech?
Well, there's no accounting for tastes. Yeah, I'm stopping here in the judge's office, my boy. See you later.
So long, Unc.
The judge's door is open. Look at him wave his arms. I wonder if he's practicing his speech or there's a bee in his office.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to preface my remarks by relating an amusing little anecdote.
He's working on his speech, all right.
On my way to Craft Park this afternoon, I met 2 gentlemen named Pat and Mike.
Pat and Mike. Judge!
Pat said to Mike...
Judge, do you mind if I interrupt?
Oh, hello, Gildy. I was just rehearsing the opening of my 4th of July address.
Well, Judge, you can forget the speech.
What?
Yeah, I know your heart isn't in it. You'd rather go up and join Miss Matterhorn.
Well, the speech is knocking me out of the trip.
It doesn't have to. I've come to do you a big favor, old friend.
Oh?
I've decided to make the speech for you.
You have? Why?
Why? Well, Judge, don't ask silly questions. Just take advantage of my generous offer and hit the road.
Gildy, why are you so anxious to get me out of town? You must have a reason.
I'm only thinking of you and Miss Matterhorn. You know you want to be with her, and she wants to be with you.
Well, yes, she does. I had a card from her this morning saying, having wonderful time, wish you were here.
You see, Judge? Now get going and forget about the speech. Just hand it to me.
No, I'd better make the speech. The congressman asked me.
Well, you can ask me. Go ahead, ask me. I'll do it. In fact, I've got to do it.
I won't do that to our congressman.
Oop. You know I'm a better speaker than you are.
Is that so? I heard you speak at the Elks Club once, and even the stuffed elk got up and walked out.
The great Gildersleeve will be back in just a minute. The time is early evening. The place is your dining room. The table is set with your best linen and china and silver because you're expecting guests. And you, the hostess and star of this drama, are proudly bringing in the most beautiful and elegant-looking salad you've ever fixed. You're relaxed, too, sure that this salad will taste just as delicious as it looks because you've used the salad dressing you know will give it just the right flavor. Miracle Whip. Miracle Whip salad dressing has a flavor millions of folks call just exactly right. It's a lively, teasing flavor. Distinctive, too, one you won't find in any other salad dressing. That's because Miracle Whip is a different kind of salad dressing. It's made from a secret craft recipe and gives you the best qualities of old-fashioned boiled dressing and fine, rich mayonnaise. Miracle Whip has a perfect texture, too. Creamy thick and smooth as satin because this salad dressing is blended carefully with special craft beaters. No wonder it's America's favorite salad dressing, the most popular salad dressing ever created. So whether you're fixing fancy company salads or the simplest salad in the world for your family, remember to make it extra delicious. Make it with Miracle Whip. the great Gildersleeve was so anxious to impress his new girlfriend, Miss McKinley, that he was willing to let her believe he was making the important 4th of July address in Kraft Park. Now, the water commissioner is in hot water.
The judge certainly did surprise me, Marjorie. He didn't care a thing about making the speech until he found out somebody else wanted to do it.
Well, that's a very human reaction, Unky.
Yeah, that's the trouble with the old goat. He's too human. He immediately suspected that I was up to something.
Weren't you?
Well, naturally. But what sort of a friend is he to accuse me of it?
Ain't you giving the speech, Miss Gildersleeve?
Apparently not, Bertie.
Yes, sir. But there's a sign in Hogan Brothers' window that says you are.
I know, Bertie.
It says here, Commissioner Throckmorton P. Gildersleeve speak on the 4th of July.
I saw that sign, Bertie, but it's misleading.
Then you're not reading the congressman's speech?
No, the congressman really asked the judge.
Because the congressman didn't want to?
Well, he wanted to, but he couldn't, Bertie.
Yes, ma'am.
And the judge didn't want to, but I do, so now he wants to.
Oh, yes, sir. I wonder if that speech knows who's going to make it.
What do you mean, Bertie?
Well, the congressman wanted to make it, but he couldn't, and the judge could and would, but he didn't want to. Then you come along and want to, but couldn't, because when you wanted the judge to give it up, he wouldn't.
Bertie, it isn't funny.
No, sir.
Unky, don't you think you should call Miss McKinley and tell her to take that sign out of the window?
Well, I'm going to phone the judge and give him one more chance to change his mind. I hate to crawl back to him and beg him, but beggars can't be choosers.
Hello? Judge Hooker speaking.
Hello, Judge. About that speech you don't want to give.
What about it, Gilda?
Well, I just wondered if you wouldn't reconsider.
I have reconsidered.
You have?
My answer is still no.
Oh, my goodness.
I saw that sign in Hogan Brothers' window.
Well, then you see, I have to make the speech or I'll be the laughing stock of the town.
Good. May I be the first to laugh? Now hang up, will you? I'm busy. I have a million things to do.
But
I have to study my lines, go to the barber shop, stop by the cleaners from a blue suit. The only one that I can wear for the speech.
Oh? You don't have another suit?
When I thought I was going to rough it at Virginia Lakes, I sent all my suits to the cleaners. They're rushing my blue serge for me.
Well, Judge. Horace. Old friend. If you're so busy, why don't I stop by and pick up your suit for you?
Would you do that for me, Gildy?
You bet. Naturally, I want to do anything I can to help make the 4th of July a success.
Well, Gildy, be sure to pick it up before 5. The cleaners are closed over the 4th.
Don't worry, Judge. You'll have something to wear.
Thank you, Gildy, old friend. I have to hang up now and get to bed.
Yeah, I have to get busy, too. Goodbye, Judge.
Goodbye.
You don't seem the least bit upset about not getting to make the speech.
Oh, not a bit, my dear. Just imagine. The judge doesn't have a thing to wear tomorrow.
What's so funny? Unky, you are going to pick up the judge's suit, aren't you?
Sure. But there can be many a slip between the cleaners and Judge Hooker's house. Bertie!
Yes, sir?
Is Leroy's little blue suit up in the closet? Gildersleeve, you're pretty clever. Pretty clever the way you outfoxed the judge. Yeah, I had quite a time explaining why I didn't bring the suit by last night. Now it's too late for him to do anything about it. Oh, wait until he tries to put on Leroy's suit. And for the old judge, I can step into the breach, though. Yeah, I can see Miss McKinley now, sitting in the front row in something summery, listening to me give the speech.
Well, Gildy, it's about time you got here.
Hello, Judge. Here's the suit in the bag.
All right, give it to me.
Don't be so impatient, Judge.
If you'll excuse me, I'll slip into the next room. I want to dress and rehearse my speech in front of the mirror.
Oh, brother. Wait until he sees himself in that suit.
If you hadn't shown up with this suit, I'd have had to leave for Virginia Lakes. I certainly couldn't make the speech in my bathing suit.
Well, your barber pole swimsuit covers you pretty well, Judge.
I can't see very well in here. Gildy, are you sure this is my suit?
It's blue serge.
That's funny. You's awfully small.
And maybe you've gained weight, Judge.
I might have gained a couple of pounds, but I know I haven't grown this much. Why, the pants cuffs come clear up to my knees.
They do?
Everything's shrunk. Gildy, come in here and look at this.
I'd like to.
This is ridiculous.
Oh, my goodness. Judge, you can't stand up in public like that.
Stand up. I can't even sit down.
Judge, don't try it.
I can't bend. See?
Oh! Leroy's suit. Bertie, how's my new suit? I'm going to need it.
It's pressed and in the closet. Are you making a speech?
You bet. The judge is on his way to Virginia Lakes.
Yes, sir.
You should have seen him trying to squeeze into Leroy's pants.
Yes, sir. Where's Leroy's suit now?
Well, I'll have to buy him a new one. But it was worth it. I sure tricked the old judge.
Yes, sir, but this ain't April Fool's Day, you know.
What's this, Bertie?
This is the 4th of July, and that's Independence Day. It ain't April Fool's Day.
Now, Bertie.
The judge don't get to speak, and Leroy lost his pants, but that don't make it April Fool's Day. This is Independence Day, and you don't fool around with independence.
Yeah, all right.
Mr. Gildersleeve, you know why you don't play April Fool jokes on the 4th of July?
Yes,
That's
Bertie.
right, because it's Independence Day, and you don't fool around with independence.
Good old Bertie. She takes Independence Day pretty seriously. Well, I do, too. That's why I want to be with Miss McKinley. She seems to like big shots, and by George, that's exactly what I am. I'll mesmerize her with my speech, and then take her to the hot dog stand. Never mind, Bertie. I'm right here. Wonder who that is. Hope the judge didn't decide to come back and speak in his bathing suit.
Hello, Throckmorton.
Miss McKinley. I didn't expect to see you. Come in.
Oh, I haven't time. I just stopped by on my way out of town.
Out of town?
But I just couldn't leave without wishing you luck with your speech today.
Miss McKinley, you're not going to be there?
Oh, didn't I tell you? I'm going to Hogan Brothers' 4th of July picnic with the assistant manager.
Assistant manager? But I thought you wanted to hear me speak.
Oh, I do. But I can't afford to offend the assistant manager.
You can't?
Mr. Gildersleeve, he's an important man.
But what about me?
Oh, you can read me the speech some other time. Goodbye now, and I'll be thinking about you every minute.
Big help.
When are you leaving for the park, Unc?
Oh, I don't care whether I go or not, Leroy. Somehow my heart isn't in reading the speech.
Well, gosh, you sure worked enough angles to get the chance.
No, Leroy, all this is Judge Hooker's doings.
What?
What a sneaky thing to do. Run off to Virginia Lakes and have the time of his life, toss his old speech in my lap.
Get him. Oh, brother.
I don't have to make this speech. I'm not trying to impress anybody.
Oh, that's right. She ran out on you, didn't she?
Leroy.
Mr. Gildersleeve, aren't you putting on your new suit?
Oh, I don't know, Bertie.
It's getting late. I see people heading for Craft Park.
I'm going to parade with the Boy Scouts, Unc.
Good for you, my boy.
I just saw a man in a uniform pass here with a bass drum. There's going to be big doings today.
Great. Leroy, I think I'll let you take the speech down and give it to somebody on the committee.
Yeah? Who?
Well, give it to Mr. Sprague. He likes to be in the limelight.
Is this a speech here on the table?
What's the speech about?
It says freedom.
And you ain't going to read it, Mr. Gildersleeve?
Bertie, it isn't my job. Congressman Greenhall wrote the speech. It was his job to give it.
Yes, sir.
And then it was the judge's job. And then they wished the job onto me.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Unc, it says here that freedom is everybody's job.
What's that?
The speech says the survival of our freedom depends on everybody.
Who?
And listen to this. If we want to preserve the liberties we commemorate on this 4th of July, each of us must conscientiously work at being good citizens.
Yes, sir. If you want to do anything right, you got to work at it. You want to be a good cook, you got to work at it. If you want to be a good citizen, you got to work at it.
That's true, Bertie.
Hey, get a load of this, Unc. Being a good citizen means voting in elections, keeping informed, and making our opinions known to our representatives, serving on juries and school boards, and... Unc, how about that time you wiggled out of jury duty?
Well, I did get off the jury, but I was serving on the school board at the time. Let me see that speech, Leroy.
Sure.
Freedom. Representative. This makes a lot of sense. Our American heritage, the rights and liberties which we cherish, must be made an increasingly vital part of our everyday life. We must work together to keep our freedom, not just take it for granted.
That's right.
And by George, we'd better watch it. We could lose some of those liberties before we know it. Come on, Leroy, we're going down to Kraft Park and tell them a thing or two.
The great Gildersleeve will be with us again in just 30 seconds. Too hot to cook? Make a cool, easy salad main dish and make it really delicious with Miracle Whip salad dressing. And I mean really delicious, because Miracle Whip has such a wonderful flavor, a peppy flavor, a flavor that folks everywhere call just right. It's a different flavor, too, one no other salad dressing has. Try Miracle Whip on the very next salad you make. See how much better tasting your salads are when you make them with the one and only Miracle Whip salad dressing.
You got the speech, Unc?
You bet. Right here in my inside pocket.
Boy, if you lost that, you'd be sunk.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, you gotta have something to read. You haven't got it memorized.
Well, I'd get up there and say something. I know a few things, my boy. I've got quite a bit of history right at my fingertips.
Yeah?
Yes, indeed. Did you know, my boy, that yesterday was the 85th birthday of one of our closest neighbors?
Oh, Mr. Bullard?
Mr. Bullard, no. It was the 85th birthday of our country's good neighbor to the north, Canada.
No kidding.
That's right. The United States and Canada have been good neighbors for more years than you could count, working together, each contributing to the prosperity of the other. We have the kind of working friendship that should be a lesson and an inspiration to other countries all over the world. All right, George, let's all wish Canada a happy birthday. Good night, folks.
The Great Gildersleeve is played by Willard Waterman. The show is written by John Elliott and Andy White and is partially transcribed. Included in the cast are Walter Tetley, Mary Lee Robb, Lillian Randolph, Earl Ross, and Gloria Blondell. Musical compositions by Jack Meakin. This is John Heaston saying goodnight for the Kraft Foods Company, makers of the famous line of Kraft quality food products. Be sure to listen in next Wednesday and every Wednesday throughout the summer for the further adventures of the Great Gildersleeve.
Who likes sandwiches? Just about everyone, when they're made with Miracle Sandwich Spread. Miracle Sandwich Spread gives sandwiches a wonderfully different, delicious flavor. Created by Kraft, Miracle Sandwich Spread is made from America's favorite salad dressing, Miracle Whip, and spicy relishes. For quick, easy, thrifty sandwiches, use Miracle Sandwich Spread alone between slices of bread, or use it along with the meat or cheese sandwich filling you like best. Get it tomorrow. Miracle Sandwich Spread.
Tonight, hear the best of Groucho Marx on NBC.
All right, we're back. You just heard 2 episodes of The Great Gildersleeve all about the 4th of July. And speaking of the 4th of July, it's going to be a great one, McLean. I'm all ready to go up there. Oh boy. When I light those suckers off this whole... Yeah? What?
Jake, I don't know what you have up there. I don't know how much firepower you brought back from New Mexico, but I am on my knees. I am begging you, please do not do what you're about to do.
I feel like you do not have a lot of faith in my ability to set up a grand pyrotechnic display.
Jake, you couldn't set up an air conditioner. I honestly don't think I don't know how I
This
allowed
city
this
is
to
going to be
happen.
writing me thank you notes by the end of this holiday weekend, McLean.
Oh, this city's going to be writing your obituary. Please do not.
They said I was mad. They said I was crazy. They said it couldn't be done. They said this is an episode of Our Miss Brooks from 1949, titled July 4th Trip to Eagle Springs. So you enjoy that. McLean here, he's just a negative Nancy, a Willie Wart William. You gotta chill out, buddy. Everything's gonna be fine.
Our landlord has already been ticked at us for weeks now. If you blow up the building, I don't know what's gonna happen, dude.
That does remind me, however, our landlord is fond of going on the roof to smoke his cigarettes at about this time. I'm gonna go prevent a disaster. This is our Miss Brooks. Oh boy.
I'm gonna evacuate.
Palmolive Soap, your beauty hope, and Luster Cream Shampoo for soft, glamorous, caressable hair bring you Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. When the 4th of July weekend arrived at Madison High Summer School, it was welcomed most enthusiastically by Our Miss Brooks, who teaches English there.
I don't know why I looked forward to such a brief holiday with such keen anticipation. I like my work, and I'm very fond of my pupils. Then there's the school principal, Mr. Osgood Conklin. Well, what do you know? I just found out why I look forward to such a brief holiday with such keen anticipation. Mr. Conklin and I never have been what the scientists call chemical affinities. But last week we really reached the ultimate in mutual harassment. I would hesitate to describe Mr. Conklin's temper as volcanic, but by last Thursday I would swear I saw a thin trickle of lava flowing out of his ears. I was telling my landlady, Mrs. Davis, about it Friday morning at breakfast. He hasn't been this irritable since last month when I broke his new glasses.
My goodness, Connie. How did you do that?
It was an accident, Mrs. Davis. They broke when we both bent down at the same time.
You both bent down?
Yes, to pick up a hammer I had dropped on his foot.
Osgood is certainly hard to get along with. Oh, Connie, did you say you wanted tea or coffee this morning?
I said I wanted milk, Mrs. Davis.
Oh, of course you did. I'm getting so absent-minded lately. Almost as bad as my sister Angela.
How is Angela, Mrs. Davis?
Angela?
Your sister.
Oh. She's terribly absent-minded, poor dear. Why, the other morning, do you know what she did?
No, what?
She found herself with one foot in the bathtub and one foot out of the bathtub.
Well, there's nothing absent-minded about that. It happens to most of us, sooner or later.
But Angela couldn't remember whether she was just getting into the tub or whether she was just getting out.
Well, that is a dilemma. What did she do?
She let the water out and took a shower. Now I'd better get you that hot chocolate you wanted.
It's milk, Mrs. Davis, and it's right here on the table. Can I pour some for you?
Oh, no, thanks, Connie. I never drink milk in the morning. It keeps me up all day.
Maybe we should have gone on talking about Mr. Conklin.
Say, that reminds me, Connie. How's Mr. Conklin been treating you lately?
You should have seen him yesterday when I stopped in at his office to get my check.
Was he very disagreeable, Connie?
Not at first. That's what's so confusing. When I sat down to sign for the check, he was extremely civil to me, almost courteous. And then in a few seconds, boom, his whole attitude changed.
But why?
That's what I'd like to know. You think I spilled that bottle of ink on his coat purposely?
Oh, Connie, not a bottle of ink.
I couldn't help it, Mrs. Davis, and I tried my best to get out the spots.
With what?
With spot remover, of course. Or at least I thought it was spot remover. It isn't my fault that Mr. Conklin keeps ammonia in his desk, is it?
Ammonia? But, Connie, ammonia will just burn right through the cloth.
Please, Mrs. Davis, you sound just like Mr. Conklin. But I won't be running into him for the next few days, thank goodness. I'm going away for the July 4th weekend.
But, Connie, can you afford to go away?
On my salary, I can't afford to stay home. But I've made up my mind to do it if I have to go without lunch for a week. And guess where I'm going, Mrs. Davis?
Where?
To Eagle Springs. And guess what bashful scientist is going to get the surprise of his life because he's going there too and doesn't know I'm coming?
It's not Mr. Boynton.
It ain't Al Einstein. Now, if you'll excuse me, Mrs. Davis, I'll get ready for school. Walter Denton should be picking me up pretty soon.
Oh, I'm sorry, Connie, but there's something I forgot to tell you. Walter called while you were in the shower and said he can't pick you up this morning.
Oh, great. And my car won't budge.
What's the matter with it, Connie?
I don't know exactly. Last time I went out to the garage to look at it, it was lying on its side, panting.
Walter said he hoped you'd understand, but he had to drive Mr. Conklin to the doctor's this morning.
The doctor's? Why, that's a shame. I wonder what's wrong with poor Mr. Conklin.
Well, Osgood, I can't seem to find anything radically wrong with your physical condition, outside of a slightly elevated blood pressure, that is.
What is my blood pressure, Dr. Haney?
Oh, nothing to worry about, Osgood. Around 180, I'd say. Of course, if it gets to 200, I'd advise you to sell.
If there's one thing I've always wanted, it's a comical physician. Now tell me, Doctor, what's wrong with me?
Well, I can't discover any physical symptoms, Osgood, but there's no doubt about it. Something seems to be troubling you mentally. Now, what is it?
It isn't a what, it's a who. And what a who. Even when we're not together, I can still see her face before me.
But, Osgood, who is this woman?
It's Miss Brooks, Doctor. She teaches English at Madison.
It seems to me, Osgood, if Miss Brooks grates on your nerves so much, you shouldn't let her cross your path. Avoid contact with her whenever possible. As a matter of fact, I recommend that you leave town for a few days.
That's it. I'll do it. I'll go away for the 4th of July weekend. But where?
Oh, it doesn't matter where. Do your world of good to get away for a few days. Say, now, maybe I can help you.
You?
Why, sure. I know the squaw in charge of reservations on the Chief.
It will be good to get away.
Oh, hello, Miss Brooks. You're just the person I wanted to see.
Good morning, Harriet. What can I do for you?
It's Daddy, Miss Brooks. I'm real worried about him. Last night he cried out in his sleep several times. Mother had to keep waking him up, and once in his sleep he screamed out your name.
My name?
Yes. That's when Mother had to tie him to the bed.
I think I can explain your father's nocturnal penchant for screaming my name, Harriet. We've spent the better part of this week exchanging unpleasantries.
Then Daddy did have words with you?
Harriet, your daddy had words that I wouldn't repeat in front of a sailor.
He was extremely nervous this morning when Walter Denton drove him to the doctor's.
Well, I hope his doctor has a good doctor. Now, if you'll excuse me, Harriet, I'll run along to class.
Just a minute, Miss Brooks. Here's Daddy now.
Oh, good morning, Harriet. Well, the doctor says there's nothing wrong with me physically at all.
I knew it. You look better already.
Thank you, my dear.
Good morning, Mr. Conklin. He just took a turn for the worse.
Good morning, Miss Brooks. So far. I'd better get into my office now. I'll see you later, Harriet.
All right, Daddy. But what's the umbrella for?
It looked like rain when I left for the doctor's. Oh, by the way, it's a rather sturdy umbrella, Miss Brooks. Care to whack me over the head with it to start off the day?
Oh, of course not, Mr. Conklin.
You're sure now?
I'll take a rain check. I'm positive. Oh, hold still a minute, Mr. Conklin. There's a thread hanging from the lapel of your coat. I'll pull it out for you.
You needn't bother.
It's no bother. I'll pull it out in just a second. There, that does it. No, there seems to be more. Hold still, please.
I'm waiting, Miss Brooks.
I'm pulling, Mr. Conklin.
His lapel looks all right, Miss Brooks.
Oh, I'm getting it now. This a new suit, Mr. Conklin?
Yes. Yes, it is. No doubt you remember my old suit, Miss Brooks. The one with the ink spots.
Ink spots? How in the world did you get... Oh, that one.
Yes, that one. I thought you'd like to know that I cleaned Walter Denton's windshield with it this morning.
certainly needed it. I mean, I'm sorry about your suit, Mr. Conklin, but say, this is funny. There doesn't seem to be any end to this thread.
So I see. Miss Brooks, would you be good enough to give me the ball of thread you're holding in your I'll have another lapel sewn on.
Oh, forgive me, Mr. Conklin. I didn't realize
My brand new suit. 2 pairs of pants and 1 lapel. Let me in that office immediately. Step aside, Harry.
But, Daddy! Daddy seems quite annoyed at you this morning, doesn't he, Miss Brooks?
I think so. In fact, there's an old Eskimo saying that describes his feelings toward me perfectly. It goes, Pulikamu konakrio exo.
What does that mean?
Baby, it's cold outside.
Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, will continue in just a moment. But first, here is Vern Smith. Here's wonderful news, ladies. Wonderful, wonderful news. Now there's something thrillingly new in Palmolive Soap's famous Beauty Lather. Yes, something thrillingly new. Palmolive's famous Beauty Lather now brings you new fragrance, new charm, new allure.
Millions of women will prefer Beauty Lather Palmolive over all other leading toilet soaps the minute they try it. For Palmolive Soap's famous Beauty Lather now has a new, clean, flower-fresh fragrance. For new allure, new charm.
So, ladies, forget all other beauty care and use Palmolive soap the way doctors advised for a lovelier complexion. Just stop improper cleansing and instead wash your face with Palmolive soap 3 times a day, massaging Palmolive's wonderful Beauty Lather onto your skin for 60 seconds each time to get its full beautifying effect. Then rinse. That's all. All types of skin, young, older, oily, respond to it quickly. Don't wait another day to try Palmolive's Beauty Lather. You'll be thrilled by its new fragrance, new charm, new allure. Thrilled again by the fresher, brighter complexion doctors prove may soon be yours.
For new loveliness all over, use big bath-size Palmolive in tub or shower.
Well, I had no further encounters with Mr. Conklin during my first class, and while waiting for another session to begin, I was bolstered by the thought that I'd soon be on my way to Eagle Springs for the 4th of July weekend. While I was marking some composition papers, Walter Denton returned from the errand I'd sent him on.
Excuse me, Miss Brooks, but I'm back.
Did you get me a ticket to Eagle Springs, Walter?
Sure, Miss Brooks, but first I told Mr. Boynton I was going to the railroad station on an errand, and then I volunteered to pick up his ticket to Eagle Springs for him, and when he gave me the money, I just added what you'd given me and bought 2 tickets, seats 208 and 209 in the parlor car, right smack up against each other.
Why, Walter Denton, where did you ever get such a diabolical scheme?
From you. Now, don't you remember, Miss Brooks? You laid the whole thing out for me.
Never mind, Walter. Are you sure the seats are together?
Positive. And it was a lucky break I got any seats at all. The trains are sure crowded for this 4th of July weekend. Gosh, the station was alive with travelers.
Those are the best kind. Now, look, Walter. You have got to promise me you won't mention my trip to a soul. I don't want Mr. Boynton to know I'm going to Eagle Springs until he sits down next to me on that train.
You have my word as a gentleman and a scholar.
I've just read your composition. Your word as a gentleman will do.
No, all kidding aside, Miss Brooks, how did you like my composition? Great baseball yarn, isn't it?
Frankly, Walter, it's a little hard for me to judge. I know how crazy you are about baseball. I'd like to be fair in marking your composition, but, well, this time you've really got me stumped.
But why?
Maybe it's because the first 6 pages contain nothing but the American League box scores.
I just put that in to make it more dramatic.
Well, some of it is pretty exciting at that. I remember one very eloquent phrase that keeps recurring in the story. Had me right on the edge of my seat. Let me find it. Oh, here it is. Coleman to Sternweiss to Phillips.
That's a famous double play combination. You know, on the Yankees.
Oh, Yankees, of course. The northern team. Now, you'd better be getting on to your next class.
Okay, Miss Brooks. Oh, before I go, is there anything I can do for you while you're out of town?
Yes, Walter. Come to think of it, there is something you can do. You'll probably be seeing a lot of Harriet Conklin over the weekend, won't you?
That's for sure.
Well, you can do me this one big favor. Whenever Mr. Conklin's in the vicinity, please don't mention my name.
When Mr. Conklin's in the vicinity, I'm usually not. He hates me, you know.
You're not the only one. But just don't talk about me when he's around. I'm hoping he'll cool down a bit while I'm away. Oh, there's that pesky fly again. He's been in here all morning.
I'll be darned if I'd hang around summer school all day if I was a fly.
Maybe he needs the credit. Hand me that fly swatter, Walter. Thanks.
Oh, he lit over here on the door, Miss Brooks. I'll open it and let him fly out.
No, don't, Walter. He looks like a germ carrier. I think I've got a good bead on the little pest. Here goes.
Fortunately, I get my glasses wholesale.
Mr. Conklin.
And now that you've warmed up, Miss Brooks, how about trying the umbrella?
It was an accident, Mr. Conklin. Miss Brooks didn't mean to hit you. She was after that other pest. I mean, the fly.
Well, if it isn't Walter Denton. I've hit the jackpot this time.
Oh, please, Mr. Conklin, if you'll just sit down a minute.
Yeah, Mr. Conklin, just have a seat. I'll gather your glasses for you.
Yes. Oh, Denton.
Yes, sir? Get out! Yes, sir.
Miss Brooks, the reason I came in here was to inform you, as I have the other members of the faculty, that I'm going away for a while.
Away? For how long, Mr. Conklin?
Well, this morning I planned on staying away for just 3 days. But then, when you siphoned off one of my lapels, I decided to make it 4 or 5. And just now, when you flogged me with that fly swatter, I realized I'll need at least a week.
Mr. Conklin, I won't deny that a series of extremely unfortunate incidents have occurred.
How very broad-minded of you. Well, there won't be any more of them for me, at least not for the next week. I always thought I was a man of more than average courage, Miss Brooks, but I've discovered recently that I'm not.
Please, Mr.
It's true. I am a coward, Miss Brooks. But be that as it may, I am determined to live long enough to be an old coward. Hence, I am about to flee the city.
But where are you going, Mr. Conklin?
I don't know yet. I've called the railroad station, but their trains are all jammed with 4th of July weekenders. However...
Yes, I know. It's very crowded on almost all the trains.
I haven't finished talking, Miss Brooks. I was about to say, however, I'm going to try the airport this afternoon. Maybe I can get a plane for somewhere. Oh, that's a very annoying fly.
Oh, I've got the swatter, Mr. Conklin. I'll get it this time. You just sit still.
No, I'll get out of this seat if you don't mind.
You got up, Mr. Conklin.
As I was saying, Miss Brooks, I'll go to the airport. And if I can't get a plane from somewhere, I may fly somewhere without a plane!
And so, class, it only requires a little concentration to avoid embarrassing mistakes in conversation. We'll take up next the works of Lord Byron. That's all for now. Class dismissed, and have a nice weekend.
Oh, excuse me, Miss Brooks. Could I see you for a minute?
Why, Mr. Boynton, you may see me for longer than that. Come in, won't you?
I just wanted to say goodbye, Miss Brooks.
Oh? Going somewhere?
Yes. Walter Denton just got me a ticket on the 4:15 to Eagle Springs. I'm going to spend the 4th of July weekend up there.
How nice for you, Mr. Boynton. It should do you a world of good.
Yes, I really need the rest. I've been working pretty hard lately. Still, I want you to know I'll miss our regular Friday afternoon date, Miss Brooks.
I don't see why. That was a pretty tiresome crowd we were running around with.
Miss Brooks, we went to the zoo on Fridays.
That's what I mean. Every week, the same old hairy faces.
It does a man good to get away from town every so often. Gives him a chance to think things out. Commune with nature, as it were. You know, I like to get next to Mother Nature once in a while.
Now, isn't that funny? I feel the same way about Father Nature. That is, I'm sure you'll have a lovely time, Mr. Boynton.
I knew you'd understand, Miss Brooks. Walter got me a seat in the parlor car. They usually come in twos, you know.
Do they?
Yes, I hope someone nice sits next to me. It's quite a long trip, and a friendly traveling companion can make the time pass much more pleasantly.
I'm sure you'll draw the doll of the world.
No, not me. Just my luck. I'll probably wind up alongside some big fat dunce.
I mean, it's silly to even speculate about your train partner, Mr. Boynton. Forget it for now.
If only he has a good sense of humor. I remember the last trip I took to New York. On my way back, I sat right next to George S. Kaufman, the famous playwright.
Really? How was his sense of humor?
You'd be surprised. It wasn't so good. I told him one of my best gags, too. You know the one where I make my shoes squeak on purpose? Well, when Kaufman asked me if they were new shoes, I said, shoes nothing. Those are my Blue Jay cornplasters chirping. Now, you know that's funny.
It's a scream. How did Mr. Kaufman react?
He took 2 Alka-Seltzers and went to sleep.
Probably jealous because he didn't make it up.
Well, I guess I better be leaving now, Miss Brooks. I've still got to say goodbye to Mr. Conklin.
Well, whatever you do, don't mention my name to him. This is one of my bad days.
Miss Brooks, you shouldn't fight with Mr. Conklin.
I'm not fighting with him, Mr. Boynton. Why, Mr. Conklin would be the first to admit that we'd get along splendidly together if it weren't for just one thing.
What's that?
Me.
Come in.
Oh, I just dropped in to say goodbye, Mr. Conklin.
Oh, sit down a minute, Boynton. I'm just getting some information from the Travel Bureau. What did you say the name of that train was again? The Snake Eyes Limited? No, I'm afraid I don't care to go as far as Las Vegas. Goodbye. Now then, you were saying?
Just goodbye, Mr. Conklin. I'm going up to Eagle Springs for the weekend.
Eagle Springs? But you won't be able to get a train ticket. I've tried every which way to get out of this town. It's just impossible.
Oh, not for me, it isn't. I've got my ticket right here. Seat 209 in the parlor car on the 415.
Let's see that ticket, Boynton. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll be running along now, if you don't mind.
Just a moment, Boynton. Boynton, I've always looked upon you as one of the outstanding members of Madison's faculty. Not just as a teacher, mind, although you're one of the best.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Conklin.
But also as a human being. You, Boynton, are the type of chap who would never let anyone down.
Oh, gosh, Mr. Conklin.
That's why I know you'll sell me that ticket and postpone your own vacation.
Postpone it? But, Mr. Conklin, I can't.
Can't? In the vocabulary of a Madison High School teacher, there is no such word as can't.
Well, then I won't. Oh, I'm sorry, sir, but I've worked very hard for this vacation,
Of course you have, my boy. It was selfish of me to even suggest that you give me your ticket on the train. The fact that I'm on the verge of complete mental breakdown should not sway you in the slightest.
Mental breakdown? Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. Conklin.
Oh, chin up, boy. Wipe that frown from your face. You should be smiling. You're going on a trip. A happy, carefree trip. Forget about me trembling in my stuffy little office. You're on the train, boy. I can see you now, sitting there in that plush parlor car, the sun streaming through the windows. What's this? Conductor is approaching. Tickets? Tickets, please. Where's your ticket?
Here it is.
Thanks, Boynton. I knew you'd come through.
Here you are, miss. Seat 208.
Thank you.
Now, this bag belongs to the gentleman in the next seat. He went back to the smoking car just before we pulled out.
Oh, that's perfect. Now I can really surprise him.
Oh, you know him?
Not as well as I'm going to. That is, we've never been on a vacation together before.
Oh, that's the fellow coming down the aisle there. Oh, yes. He's got adhesive tape on his glasses.
What? Are you sure that's the man who has seat 209?
I'm positive. I parked him here myself.
Oh. Well, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to face the window before he sits down.
What for?
If he sees me before he sits down, he'll fall down.
Oh, I get it. It's a rib. Tickets.
205, 207. Ah, here we are, 209. Hi-ho, to Eagle Springs we go. Well, I have a traveling companion. I don't blame you for gazing out the window. Lovely scenery, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing like taking a little trip, eh?
Mm-mm.
I don't mind telling you I was a candidate for the Mayo Clinic before I got on this train. But it's going to be different now. Hi-ho, to Eagle Springs we go, and as we go I sing ho, hi-ho. Hey, look at the sun coming from behind that cloud. Shining on the window that way, it's beginning to reflect your features. Yes, yes. There are your eyes. Nice eyes. There's your nose. Pretty nose. There's your mouth, your chin. Put them all together, and they add up.
Hi-ho, hi-ho, to the Mayo Clinic we go.
As our Miss Brooks returns in just a moment, but first...
Dream girl, beautiful luster cream girl.
Tonight, yes, tonight, show him how much lovelier your hair can look after a Luster Cream shampoo. Luster Cream, world's finest shampoo. No other shampoo in the world gives you Kay Daumit's magic blend of secret ingredients plus gentle lanolin. Not a soap, not a liquid, Luster Cream shampoo leaves hair 3 ways lovelier, fragrantly clean, free of loose dandruff, glistening with sheen, soft, manageable. Even in hardest water, Luster Cream lathers instantly. No special rinse needed after a Luster Cream shampoo. So gentle, Luster Cream is wonderful even for children's hair. Tonight, yes, tonight, try Luster Cream shampoo.
Dream girl, beautiful luster cream girl. You owe your crowning glory to a luster cream shampoo.
And now, once again, here is our Miss Brooks.
Well, after I found out the identity of Mr. Boynton's summer replacement on the train, I altered my plans for the weekend. Computing the wind velocity and the rate of speed at which we were traveling, I decided not to get off until the first stop. Then I took the next train back to town. And when I arrived at the depot, I ran right into Walter Denton.
Miss Brooks, what are you doing here? You should be halfway to Eagle Springs by now.
I was, Walter, but I found out that Mr. Boynton isn't going, and I couldn't bear the thought of letting him spend the weekend alone.
Alone? But Miss Brooks, Mr. Boynton got a last-minute cancellation and left for Eagle Springs 5 minutes ago.
What?
Sure, I drove him down.
Oh, great. Well, there's only one way I can celebrate the holiday now. I'll make an anonymous call to Mr. Conklin on Monday.
An anonymous call?
Yes, Walter. That's the 4th of July, and I'm really going to shoot off my mouth.
Next week, tune into another Our Miss Brooks show brought to you by Palmolive Soap, Your Beauty Hope, and Luster Cream Shampoo for soft, glamorous, caressable hair. Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, is produced by Larry Burns, written and directed by Al Lewis, with music by Wilbur Hatch.
Here's a money-saving offer, men. A giant tube and a large tube of Palmolive brushless shaving cream for 49 cents. Yes, a 70-cent value for only 49 cents. This offer is made solely to prove you, too, can get smoother, more comfortable shaves the Palmolive brushless way. Just follow directions on the tube and treat your face to wonderful shaves. Yes, for extra shaving comfort at extra low cost, don't miss this Palmolive brushless bargain. At drug and toilet goods counters, get both giant and large size Palmolive brushless. A 70-cent value for only 49 cents.
Last year, forest fires laid waste 30 million acres of America's timberland. This year, only you can keep it from happening again. So when you or your family are camping, motoring in, or even near a forest area, remember these 4 rules. 1, crush out, completely out, all cigarette, cigar, and pipe ashes. 2, break matches in 2 after using. 3, drown all campfires, then stir and drown again. 4, before going near timber, ask fire authorities where campfires or even smoking are permitted. Remember, another 30 million acres will burn this year unless you are careful. For For mystery liberally sprinkled with laughs, listen to Mr. and Mrs. North, the exciting, fun-packed adventures of an amateur detective and his beautiful wife. Tune in Tuesday evening over most of these same stations. And be with us again at this same time next week for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks. Bob Lamont speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting.
So, that was an episode of Our Miss Brooks.
That was sorry about the noise in the background. So yeah, our landlord likes to smoke his cigarettes on the roof, and cigarettes. You have to light them with a match.
You gotta use a match to light them.
I am not admitting culpability for what happened. He can't prove that was our setup. There's a lot of people in this building. The city's pretty mad. He's pretty mad. We're gonna lay low for a while.
This is not an official admission of guilt, and I would like these recordings to be stricken from the court record.
Yeah. Nobody died. Nobody died. Like, what are they so worked up about, anyway?
Well...
Thanks for listening to Yesterday Today. We're gonna hire a lawyer. Yeah.
We're gonna hire a lot of lawyers.
See you next time.
I hope so.
We are in so much trouble.
Don't say that.